There is something within you that you can't always name, something that refuses to fit inside the limits of an ordinary life. It rises in moments of silence, like a quiet but persistent whisper that tells you that your existence was never meant to remain small. It is as if an inner voice, subtle yet steady, insists that you came into this world carrying a purpose larger than anything you have dared to imagine. Carl Jung believed that the destiny of each individual is hidden in the deepest corners of the unconscious, and that those who learn to listen to its symbols, its impulses, its subtle guidance, eventually find a path that transforms them from the inside out. And this feeling you sense is not random. It is the first sign that your life is unfolding toward a direction that your conscious mind has yet to fully understand. Not everyone can recognize these signals. Many dismiss them as coincidences or label them as unrealistic fantasies. Others silence them out of fear, because answering that kind of inner call demands courage, honesty, and the willingness to let go of a life that no longer fits. But the ones who do recognize them, the ones who dare to follow them, even when everything around tells them to stay where they are, those are the people who end up walking a path that reshapes them into someone capable of leaving a mark on the world. Today, you are stepping into that same territory, into the awareness that there are hidden signs showing you that you are meant to become someone greater than you have ever believed yourself to be. These signs don't come from ego, and they don't come from ambition. They come from a deeper layer of your psyche, a place where your soul remembers the purpose you were born to fulfill. One of the first signs appears as a longing, a strange nostalgia for a life you haven't yet lived. It is not anxiety, and it is not impatience. It feels more like a fine thread pulling you from ahead, as if somewhere in the distance, a wider, more expanded version of yourself is already waiting. You walk down an ordinary street, doing something simple, and suddenly you sense a sort of inner echo, an intuition of the person you are becoming, nudging you forward with gentle insistence. Jung would have called this a teleological orientation of the psyche. You are not only moved by what has happened to you, you are drawn toward what you are meant to embody. It is a memory of the future, an inner image you do not remember from the past, but recognize as something that quietly feels like home, like a place where you have not lived yet, but somehow already belong. This memory of the future appears in very specific ways. Sometimes you are offered an easy shortcut, and for a moment you feel relief, but then a subtle contraction appears somewhere in your chest, as if you are shrinking to fit into a version of yourself that is already too small. But when you face a challenge that makes no logical sense, when something calls you, even though it feels uncertain, the opposite happens. Your body expands. It opens by a barely perceptible degree. You may not be able to explain it, but you can feel it. It is as if the self, that central organizing force Jung described, gently pulls you with an invisible cord and says, "Come, this is where you will meet yourself." A person destined for greatness does not chase achievements to soothe the ego. They seek alignment with the inner image that calls them. This is why you sometimes choose paths others see as impractical, yet you feel an unusual sense of peace. It is not the peace of avoiding conflict. It is the peace of honoring the right direction. You catch yourself turning down opportunities that look brilliant on paper but secretly diminish you, or saying yes to long, slow, almost handcrafted processes that require patience but feel like they stretch your soul. And at times, Echoes appear from the future. People you meet and somehow feel like they belong to your story. Places you visit for the first time but feel strangely familiar. Phrases or moments that brush past you like borrowed memories from your future self 5 years ahead. And when you betray that inner compass, whether out of fear, impatience, or the desire to please, something very specific happens. You feel a kind of soul hangover. It is not moral guilt. It is the discomfort of having stepped out of the larger space that truly belongs to you. It is the feeling of having abandoned yourself, even if only for a few hours, and suddenly realizing that the cost is always too high. This memory of the future speaks through symbols. In dreams, you may find yourself walking up staircases, entering long hallways, watching trains depart without you, or holding keys whose doors you do not yet know. These dreams are not describing your past. They are urging your biography toward a more authentic shape. Jung said that the unconscious compensates for what consciousness ignores. If your current life has become too small for what you are, your dreams introduce larger architectures to remind you of the home your soul is building inside you. How can you work with this sign in a grounded, concrete way without drifting into empty mysticism? There is a simple ritual you can begin with. Tonight, before you sleep, write 12 lines signed with your name plus 5 years. Do not decorate them. Be sober, precise, and concrete. Then read the text quietly and underline the sentence that expands your body. Condense it into 5 words and carry those 5 words with you in your pocket tomorrow. During the day, choose one small action that honors that sentence. Greatness does not begin with a leap. It begins with 1 degree more of honesty. There is also a somatic compass you can use. When you need to choose between 2 paths, listen to your body. If your chest opens, even if it scares you, it is probably your direction. If your body contracts, investigate what need you are trying to satisfy with the shortcut. The part of you that is hungry is craving coherence, not applause. Create a map of repair. Write down 3 recent moments in which you made yourself small in order to fit in. Transform each of them into a micro-ritual, a conversation you are going to have, a boundary you are going to set, a yes you will offer without excuses. Greatness is trained through decisions that do not betray you and create a filter for opportunities. Ask yourself, does this make me sharper or just more visible? Visibility feeds the persona. Sharpness feeds destiny. If this first sign resonates with you, if you feel that longing for what has not yet happened, if you sense that invisible thread pulling you from ahead, you are not fantasizing. You are remembering forward. It is not ambition speaking to you. It is the inner image of who you already are in potential. And when you listen to it with respect, your life quietly begins to reorganize itself around that secret figure that waits for you to grow into it. The second sign appears when you begin to notice that your life is marked by interruptions that seem to arrive at the worst possible moment, yet somehow end up becoming the exact turning points you needed. These are not simple obstacles or small inconveniences. They are breaks, abrupt, undeniable fractures that cut through what once felt stable. Relationships that collapse without warning. Projects that fall apart just when everything appeared to be flowing. Paths that close with a harshness that feels almost personal, almost cruel. From the outside, anyone would call it bad luck, a streak of unfortunate coincidences, a chain of losses. But if you look deeper, if you listen beneath the noise of frustration, these interruptions feel like an invisible hand removing a misplaced piece from your board before you get too comfortable. before you settle into a version of life that was never meant for you. Jung said that the unconscious conspires to push you toward your wholeness. And sometimes that conspiracy takes the form of an unexpected collapse, one that feels destructive but is secretly corrective. Anyone destined to become someone greater eventually discovers that they cannot sustain structures that were never aligned with their inner truth. Life simply won't allow it. Every time you insist on walking a path that isn't yours, an interruption emerges, sharp, undeniable, shaking you awake, forcing you to look at what you have been avoiding. It's as if your destiny refuses to let you waste years holding up a mask or investing your energy in a life too small for your soul. And what's curious is that after the initial shock, a pattern becomes visible. These losses never leave you empty-handed, though at first they may feel like they tear something valuable away. What they remove is the false weight you've been carrying. They leave you emptier only of illusions, and therefore more available for what is real. Greatness is not built on the accumulation of achievements, but on the cleansing of everything that was never authentic to begin with. Maybe you've lived it already, losing someone who seemed essential, someone you believed you could not live without, only to realize with time that their absence gave you back your voice, your clarity, your direction. Maybe you had a project collapse, one that looked promising, one you thought would define your future, and yet that very collapse pushed you toward a path far more aligned with who you truly are, one you could not have planned or imagined. These interruptions are not punishments, they are spiritual prunings, removing what cannot grow so that what must grow finally has space. The second sign, then, does not appear in what remains with you. It appears in what life insists on taking away, in what it removes with a precision you only understand later. If you learn to read it that way, every loss stops feeling like an ending and begins to reveal itself as a disguised doorway. The most surprising part of this sign is that these interruptions are not always loud. Not every transformation comes with thunder. Sometimes they arrive in the smallest details, moments that seem insignificant but shift the entire direction of your life. A casual encounter on a street that alters your plans without warning. A delay that prevents you from taking the wrong path. A random phrase overheard in passing that echoes louder than months of certainty. Tiny cracks that once opened reveal that the ground you were walking on was never solid. With time, you begin to notice a kind of hidden rhythm in these ruptures. At first, they hurt because they interrupt the continuity you've been trying to protect. But eventually, you understand that they work like hammer strikes on iron. Each impact shapes you, sharpens you, defines you. It is not softness that sculpts you. It is the unexpected blow, the shock that forces you to become more precise, more aligned, more yourself. And beneath all this lies something even deeper. Each interruption trains you in the art of intelligent surrender. You begin to release with less resistance. You stop fighting so hard for what clearly isn't your place. That ability to let go quickly, without clinging out of fear or desperation, is one of the defining traits of those destined for greatness. They know they cannot waste their energy sustaining what is already collapsing. These breaks also sharpen your sensitivity. You start to recognize, earlier than others, when something is already vibrating falsely. You become lucid in detecting subtle signs that a cycle has ended, and that clarity gives you an advantage. What many experience as a sudden catastrophe becomes, for you, an early invitation to redirect your strength toward more fertile ground. If you look back, you may already see it. It wasn't you who consciously decided to leave certain paths behind. Life dismantled them for you. And within that persistent push forward lies a reminder. Your destiny is not a straight road. It is a living pattern, one that shifts and rearranges itself every time you take a step that isn't truly yours. The third sign reveals itself in those moments when you feel that your sensitivity seems uncomfortable for the world, yet impossible to dim within you. It is not weakness, but a refined perception, as though your senses were calibrated to detect what others pass over. You perceive tension inside silence, a shadow within a glance, the energy behind a word that appears harmless. At first, it seems like a weight, because it makes you move through life with an intensity that others never acknowledge. But in truth, it is a mark. Those who are meant to grow rarely carry a low threshold of perception. Instead, they move with an inner radar that keeps them awake even in ordinary situations. This hypersensitivity becomes the language through which your unconscious attempts to warn you and guide you. What seems overwhelming at first becomes an instrument of depth. The paradox is that this sensitivity initially feels unsettling. It makes you feel different and even exposed. Yet as time passes, you realize that what once felt like a weakness is actually an antenna directed toward what is coming. This ability to perceive what cannot be seen allows you to anticipate, to grasp deep patterns, and to touch the inner layers that shape the emotional world of others. Watch how this operates. A simple conversation that means nothing to most leaves a trace in you. A piece of art that others glance at without thought provokes an inner shift. An empty place seems to whisper echoes of what once happened there. That density of experience becomes the raw material with which you construct something unique. Not everyone can endure such intensity, but those who carry purpose do not have another path. They must learn to turn what they perceive into vision, creativity, language, and action. What appears as noise to others becomes a map for you. And here is the point. The day you stop seeing your sensitivity as an inconvenience and begin to accept it as a structural gift, that day, your greatness stops being a distant intuition and begins to take the form of a direction. What is most fascinating about this sign is that it does not only appear in how you read others, but also in how you read yourself. This sensitivity works like a mirror that refuses to let you deceive yourself for long. You may try to hide emotions or justify choices, but something inside you eventually reveals the truth. It is as if your inner world intercepts your own excuses. That level of self-perception creates a form of creative discomfort. You are never satisfied with remaining on the surface. You are pushed to go deeper, to explore the root of what you feel, to dismantle your thoughts until you reach their essence. For many, this is exhausting, yet for you, it is inevitable. The most surprising part of this sign is that these interruptions are not always loud. Not every transformation comes with thunder. Sometimes they arrive in the smallest details, moments that seem insignificant but shift the entire direction of your life. A casual encounter on a street that alters your plans without warning. A delay that prevents you from taking the wrong path. A random phrase overheard in passing that echoes louder than months of certainty. Tiny cracks that once opened reveal that the ground you were walking on was never solid. With time, you begin to notice a kind of hidden rhythm in these ruptures. At first, they hurt because they interrupt the continuity you've been trying to protect, but eventually you understand that they work like hammer strikes on iron. Each impact shapes you, sharpens you, defines you. It is not softness that sculpts you. It is the unexpected blow, the shock that forces you to become more precise, more aligned, more yourself. And beneath all this lies something even deeper. Each interruption trains you in the art of intelligent surrender. You begin to release with less resistance. You stop fighting so hard for what clearly isn't your place. That ability to let go quickly, without clinging out of fear or desperation, is one of the defining traits of those destined for greatness. They know they cannot waste their energy sustaining what is already collapsing. These breaks also sharpen your sensitivity. You start to recognize, earlier than others, when something is already vibrating falsely. You become lucid in detecting subtle signs that a cycle has ended, and that clarity gives you an advantage. What many experience as a sudden catastrophe becomes, for you, an early invitation to redirect your strength toward more fertile ground. If you look back, you may already see it. It wasn't you who consciously decided to leave certain paths behind. Life dismantled them for you. And within that persistent push forward lies a reminder. Your destiny is not a straight road. It is a living pattern, one that shifts and rearranges itself every time you take a step that isn't truly yours. The third sign reveals itself in those moments when you feel that your sensitivity seems uncomfortable for the world, yet impossible to dim within you. It is not weakness, but a refined perception, as though your senses were calibrated to detect what others pass over. You perceive tension inside silence, a shadow within a glance, the energy behind a word that appears harmless. At first, it seems like a weight, because it makes you move through life with an intensity that others never acknowledge. But in truth, it is a mark. Those who are meant to grow rarely carry a low threshold of perception. Instead, they move with an inner radar that keeps them awake even in ordinary situations. This hypersensitivity becomes the language through which your unconscious attempts to warn you and guide you. What seems overwhelming at first becomes an instrument of depth. The paradox is that this sensitivity initially feels unsettling. It makes you feel different and even exposed. Yet as time passes, you realize that what once felt like a weakness is actually an antenna directed toward what is coming. This ability to perceive what cannot be seen allows you to anticipate, to grasp deep patterns, and to touch the inner layers that shape the emotional world of others. Watch how this operates. A simple conversation that means nothing to most leaves a trace in you. A piece of art that others glance at without thought provokes an inner shift. An empty place seems to whisper echoes of what once happened there. That density of experience becomes the raw material with which you construct something unique. Not everyone can endure such intensity, but those who carry purpose do not have another path. They must learn to turn what they perceive into vision, creativity, language, and action. What appears as noise to others becomes a map for you. And here is the point. The day you stop seeing your sensitivity as an inconvenience and begin to accept it as a structural gift, that day, your greatness stops being a distant intuition and begins to take the form of a direction. What is most fascinating about this sign is that it does not only appear in how you read others, but also in how you read yourself. This sensitivity works like a mirror that refuses to let you deceive yourself for long. You may try to hide emotions or justify choices, but something inside you eventually reveals the truth. It is as if your inner world intercepts your own excuses. That level of self-perception creates a form of creative discomfort. You are never satisfied with remaining on the surface. You are pushed to go deeper, to explore the root of what you feel, to dismantle your thoughts until you reach their essence. For many, this is exhausting, yet for you, it is inevitable. And it is precisely that confidence that begins to move you toward greatness. Because when you recognize yourself as someone who walks to a different beat, you stop comparing, you stop forcing yourself, you stop living as a copy. You begin to honor the space that belongs to you, even if no one else sees it yet. And there, in that intimate fidelity to your own rhythm, the seed of what will one day become your legacy is formed. The fifth sign shows itself through something very few people recognize as a genuine mark of greatness: the growing sense that your life doesn't fully belong to you. Yes, you have your desires, your projects, your personal ambitions, but beneath all of that, there is a deeper pulse, a force that moves in silence, as if your existence were woven into a larger story you are not writing alone. It feels as though you are a single thread inside a tapestry far greater than anything you could imagine. And even when you try to rebel against it, sooner or later, you feel the pull of that current again, guiding you back to a path you didn't consciously choose. This doesn't mean giving up your freedom. It means that even in your most private decisions, you can sense an echo that transcends your individual will. You've made choices you didn't fully understand at the time, choices that only made sense years later, as though they had been shaped by a silent intelligence that knew far more than your conscious mind could grasp. Carl Jung described the self as the totality that guides and orients a person's life. And those who are destined for something greater can sense more clearly that their steps are responding to an invisible architecture. What's curious is that this sign doesn't usually feel comfortable. At times, it weighs on you like a burden, because it demands that you walk paths far more challenging than those around you. It asks for courage, for sacrifice, for patience, and yet every time you try to ignore it, that impossible to extinguish certainty returns. This is not just about me. There is something bigger here. That conviction places you on a different level of responsibility. You stop living merely to gather experiences and begin living to offer something that will remain long after you're gone. Those who carry this mark often experience silent revelations, moments in which, without any visible reason, everything you have lived through, your losses, your loves, your emptiness, your searches, suddenly feel like they were shaping you for something far greater than your personal story. It's a strange sensation because it doesn't bring euphoria. It brings a serene, unshakable clarity, the certainty that your life has weight, that it matters. And this sign also reveals itself in the way others respond to you. You don't need many words. Your presence alone is enough to make others feel trust, inspiration, or sometimes discomfort. It's not that you intentionally try to influence anyone. It's that your existence vibrates at a frequency that naturally generates movement in your surroundings. That energy is proof that you're not here merely to go unnoticed, but to create an impact that transcends your biography. This fifth sign, the most powerful of all, reminds you that your destiny is not an individual project, but a collective calling. Your greatness is not measured by what you accumulate, but by what you transform in others. Your life, in truth, is being written by an invisible hand that chose you as a channel for something greater than your personal desires. Whoever recognizes and embraces this stops asking, "Why me?" and starts responding with a much more powerful question. Why through me? And in that question, a doorway opens, the doorway to true greatness. The most revealing part of this final sign is that when you begin to live with the awareness that your life does not entirely belong to you, everything that came before it takes on new meaning. That nostalgia for a future you haven't lived yet, the first sign, is no longer a whim of the heart, but the compass of a mission that transcends you. The interruptions that once felt unfair, the second sign, are no longer punishments, but necessary adjustments to keep you aligned with your purpose. Your sensitivity, which sometimes felt like a weight, the third sign, becomes your most precise instrument for reading the path. And that unusual rhythm of yours, that sense of being out of sync with everyone else, the fourth sign, reveals itself as the exact timing required for your mission to bloom at the right moment. Everything becomes connected. Every trait that once made you feel strange, lost, or even wrong turns out to be part of a much larger design. Understanding this frees you from comparison, from the fear of not fitting in, from the pressure of feeling like you're moving too fast or too slow. The truth is that your destiny was never to move at the same pace as others. It was to carve a new path. This fifth sign is not just a culmination. It is the key that illuminates all the others. Because when you accept that your life is part of something greater, you begin to see every detail, every fall, every intuition, every period of waiting as pieces of a single puzzle guiding you toward your greatness. And here is the real treasure. When you understand that your life is a channel for something that exceeds your personal story, you no longer need to prove anything. You no longer need to compete or justify yourself or convince anyone of who you are. Your greatness stops being an external destination and becomes a natural way of existing. That is the moment the listener realizes they don't need to wait for greatness to arrive someday. They need to recognize that it has already begun, expressing itself through the signs that have been with them all along. Looking back, you might start to see it with newfound clarity. That longing for a life you hadn't lived yet was never imagination. It was the future calling you. Those interruptions that once felt unfair were silent prunings shaping you to grow straight toward the light. Your uncomfortable sensitivity, far from being a flaw, turned out to be your most powerful antenna. That strange sense of timing that never matched anyone else's wasn't a mistake. It was proof that you were meant to follow a different rhythm. And now you finally understand. Your life doesn't fully belong to you because it has always been in service of a greater purpose. You're not here by accident. Something deep inside you led you to this exact moment, to this very video, and once you finish watching it, you'll begin to understand why. Maybe lately you've felt overwhelmed, like your life is spinning into chaos, filled with uncertainty and challenges that seem to have no purpose or logic. But what if I told you that all of this might actually be the clearest sign that you're about to step into the most powerful, beautiful, and meaningful chapter of your life? What many people don't realize is that the universe always whispers before it shouts. It sends signs, nudges, and subtle signals before a massive shift occurs. The real tragedy is that most people never recognize these signals for what they are. They misinterpret them as bad luck, as misfortune, and they give up just before their breakthrough. But not you. You're here, and that already means you're paying attention. Today, I'm going to walk you through 7 of the most powerful signs that your life is on the verge of a profound transformation. And if you find yourself resonating with even 3 of them, prepare yourself, because a new reality is already unfolding. Let's start with the first sign. You begin questioning everything you thought you knew about life. If recently you've caught yourself reflecting on your beliefs, your values, your goals, or even your sense of purpose, it's not by chance. It's because something deep within you has already begun to shift. This internal transformation may not be visible on the surface yet, but it's very real. It's as if the old mental structures you once relied on are starting to crumble. And yes, it's uncomfortable, but that discomfort is sacred. It means you're waking up to a new version of yourself. The universe is inviting you to re-examine everything you've ever taken for granted, questioning your reality, your relationships, your direction. This isn't a crisis. It's an awakening. It's the universe urging you to dismantle the illusions you've been living under, so you can open the door to something far greater than you've ever imagined. This shift in perspective is necessary for your evolution. It's life, showing you that your mind is ready to expand, to embrace new ideas, and to step into a future that's aligned with your higher self. These questions: who am I really? What do I truly want? Am I living a life that honors my soul's calling? Are not just philosophical ponderings. They are portals. And once you step through them, there's no going back. Suddenly, the world feels unfamiliar. Things that once made perfect sense start to lose their meaning. Certainties vanish. And while that may feel like losing your footing, it's actually you finding your path. This disorientation is the universe's way of clearing the path, of making space for the real you to emerge, free from the old roles, expectations, and stories that no longer fit. It's like a spiritual cleansing, a death of the false self, so the authentic self can be born. The universe, in its wisdom, begins to strip away the masks, the lies, the outdated identities, and what remains is raw, honest, and real. And even though the process feels like chaos, it's actually creation. You are being rebuilt, stronger, wiser, and more attuned to the truth of who you really are. Remember this: questioning is not a detour. It's the beginning of the journey. You're not losing your way. You're finally starting to see it. And yes, it's scary when the familiar falls apart. But that falling apart is what makes space for something better. You're not broken. You're breaking free. And it's not just your beliefs that are being challenged. You may notice that your relationships, your habits, and even your daily routines are shifting. People who no longer align with your energy begin to fade away. Circumstances that once brought comfort may now feel suffocating. That's because you're shedding everything that doesn't resonate with your new frequency. Think of this as an internal detox, a filter that allows only what nourishes your soul to stay and releases everything else. And yes, that means letting go of comfort zones, of familiar pain, of the illusion of control. It's hard because these things may have once felt like parts of your identity, but they're not who you are. They were just tools for a different phase of your life. And what comes after? That's the magic. On the other side of this upheaval is a new version of you, more resilient, more conscious, and more aligned with your deepest truth. You'll begin to sense it, a subtle but powerful feeling, a mixture of fear and excitement, as if something big, something extraordinary is about to happen. And that feeling, that's not a coincidence. That's your intuition speaking. It's the sign that your consciousness is expanding, that you're dissolving the limitations you once placed on yourself. And as those internal walls begin to fall, something beautiful starts to grow. New dreams, new purpose, new energy. It's like pulling weeds from a garden to make room for vibrant, blossoming life. And here's where the magic truly unfolds. You'll start to receive answers, but not in the way you expect. They might come in the form of chance encounters, synchronistic events, a stranger's words, or a book that mysteriously finds its way into your hands. These moments, seemingly random, carry messages tailored specifically for you. Even if you don't have all the answers yet, you'll feel it. You're on the right path. Because the very act of questioning is transformation in motion. It's not weakness, it's wisdom. The kind of wisdom that emerges when you stop pretending and start listening. Listening to yourself, to your soul, to the universe. And as you continue to lean into this process, you'll notice the external world beginning to reflect your inner shifts. That's the beauty of alignment. Your reality begins to change, not because the world has changed, but because you have. You've raised your frequency, you've opened your eyes, you've reclaimed your power. So don't fear the questions. Welcome them. Embrace the uncertainty. Allow yourself to feel the discomfort, because it means you're growing. And every great transformation begins this way, with confusion, with doubt, with a sense of falling apart. But what you're really doing is falling into place. And when you finally surrender to this process, you'll start seeing the signs the universe has been sending you all along. They've always been there, waiting for you to be ready. And now, you are. The second sign. You begin to feel a growing disconnection from your past. One of the clearest and most powerful indicators that you're on the verge of entering a new chapter in your life. It doesn't happen overnight. It's a gradual, subtle shift that begins deep within you, often so quietly that you don't even notice it at first. But slowly, almost imperceptibly, the things that once excited you, that motivated you, that filled you with purpose and energy, they begin to lose their power over you. Maybe you've realized that the hobbies, the conversations, or the routines that once brought you joy now feel hollow. It's as if you're looking at the same world, but through different eyes. Eyes that no longer light up at the same sights. Ears that no longer respond to the same sounds. The people you once felt deeply connected to, the places that once felt like home, now seem distant, almost foreign. You begin to notice that the emotions tied to those experiences have faded, and in their place is a quiet sense of detachment. This shift is not random. It's not a fleeting mood or a phase that will pass with time. It's something far deeper, far more profound. It is your soul, gently but firmly, nudging you forward. It's telling you that you've outgrown certain moments, certain relationships, certain versions of yourself. Your perception of life is evolving. And as that perception changes, so too do your goals, your desires, your values, and your connections. And suddenly, the things that once formed the foundation of your identity no longer feel like they belong to you. They feel like echoes of a life you once lived, shadows of a self you no longer are. It's a confusing experience. You don't always know where you're going or what you're supposed to become, but you know with certainty that you can't go back. You can't keep pretending that the old life fits the new version of you. It simply doesn't. Your previous routines, the job that once defined your worth, the social circles you used to feel part of, even the thoughts that guided your day-to-day life, these all begin to unravel. And yes, this unraveling can be deeply unsettling. It can feel like loss, but at the same time, it is one of the strongest signs of personal transformation. It's your inner being making space. It's you shedding your old skin so that something far more aligned with your true essence can emerge. Letting go of the familiar is never easy. There's a kind of mourning that happens when you release parts of your identity that once felt permanent. But this disconnection you're experiencing is not meant to punish you. It's meant to prepare you. It is making room for what's next. Think of it as a clearing in the forest, freshly opened by time and change, ready to receive new life. What's coming may not be visible yet, but it's growing, silently, just beneath the surface. The loss of interest in your past is a sacred signal from the universe, one that tells you, even if you don't yet understand, that something new is on its way. This isn't about abandoning everything you've known. It's about unbinding yourself from the things that have fulfilled their purpose. It's about loosening the grip on attachments that no longer support your growth. You're entering a time in your life where you're being called to release. Release the roles you've played, the patterns you've repeated, and the masks you've worn. You're being invited to step into a life that reflects who you are becoming, not who you once were. This transformation doesn't always make sense. It may feel uncertain. It may feel like the ground is shifting beneath you. But within that uncertainty lies the promise of something beautiful: expansion, rebirth, and the chance to rediscover yourself in ways you never imagined possible. The feeling of disconnection is just the beginning. Beneath it lies a cascade of internal changes. You begin to notice that your beliefs are evolving, especially the limiting ones you never questioned before. That old version of yourself, the one who accepted certain truths, lived according to external expectations, followed the crowd, starts to fade. You begin to question things you once took for granted. Maybe you start to look inward more often, finding that the world outside no longer holds all the answers. Maybe you feel that your old structures are crumbling, not in a way that destroys you, but in a way that liberates you. You might even struggle to define who you are in this new space. But despite that uncertainty, one thing is crystal clear. You're not the same person anymore. You're evolving, you're expanding, and that old skin no longer fits. There is a burning desire within you to be reborn, to step into a version of yourself that is bolder, freer, and more authentic. You may not know yet what that version looks like, but you can feel it calling to you. As this sense of disconnection deepens, fear can creep in. Fear of letting go, fear of losing what's familiar, fear of stepping into the unknown. But hand in hand with that fear comes liberation. There is freedom in no longer needing to be who you used to be. There is strength in releasing what no longer supports your highest path. That empty space you feel inside, it's not emptiness at all. It's potential. It's the womb of new beginnings. It's the signal that something far more aligned with your soul is about to emerge. And yes, it may be uncomfortable. Growth often is. But that discomfort is the gateway to clarity. And with time, clarity comes. You stop looking outside yourself for guidance. You stop relying on others to define your path. Instead, you turn inward. You begin to trust your inner wisdom, your intuition, your heart, your soul. The noise of the world starts to fade, and in its place rises a steady, quiet voice within you. That voice becomes your compass. It becomes your truth. You stop clinging to the past. You stop trying to revive the old. Instead, you open yourself to possibility. You allow yourself to grow into someone new. Every day brings you closer to a more honest version of who you really are. Not the version molded by fear or obligation or expectation, but the version that has always been waiting for you beneath the surface. So if you find yourself drifting away from who you once were, if your old life no longer fits, if the people, habits, and dreams that once felt essential now feel distant, know this: your soul is guiding you. It's leading you to a new beginning. And no, disconnection is not the end. It is the quiet, sacred beginning of the transformation you were always meant to experience. The real journey is just beginning. Third sign, you find yourself questioning what you once thought was important. Have you ever noticed that what used to feel essential no carries the same weight anymore? It's as if you're suddenly seeing life from a completely different angle. Things that once worried you seem to lose their grip. Material goals, other people's opinions, and social expectations begin to fade in the presence of something far more meaningful. You start questioning what truly matters to you. Your career, money, fame, they all seem like small pieces of a much bigger picture you couldn't quite see before. You begin to realize that the true meaning of life isn't about meeting society's standards, but about living in alignment with what genuinely resonates within you. It's like a filter has fallen away, allowing you to see past the surface and into the essence of who you are. This inner questioning isn't always easy. It can stir up uncertainty, even make you feel lost amid a sea of conflicting ideas. But that very space of not knowing is fertile ground for personal growth. That's the place where new answers begin to surface, answers that come from within, not from outside voices. Life starts revealing to you that fulfillment doesn't come from accumulating things, but from the experiences that enrich your soul and the relationships that nourish your spirit. This questioning can even spark a complete reevaluation of your purpose. Why are you here? What do you truly want to experience? The answers don't always come instantly, but what's certain is that you're beginning to open up to new possibilities. What once felt indispensable is losing its power, making way for new interests, new passions, and a deeper longing to connect with what truly matters. This is a clear sign that you're preparing for a radical transformation. The universe is guiding you toward what truly fulfills you, toward your authentic path. And although it may all feel confusing at first, this is actually the doorway to a more conscious life, one aligned with your purest essence. This shift in perspective usually happens gradually, but once it begins, you realize it can no longer be ignored. You start to notice that the things that used to give you a sense of security now feel hollow. You no longer feel the need to follow the flow of what society defines as success. It's as if a new energy is taking hold of you, pulling you toward a more authentic life, one that's less influenced by external expectations. This process isn't just about rejecting the old, it's about allowing the new to enter. The passions and interests you may have set aside are suddenly reclaiming your attention. Maybe you're rediscovering old activities you had forgotten, or even exploring new areas you never thought to consider. You no longer care about fitting into a system or following a well-worn path. Instead, you're seeking a road that reflects your true values, your real purpose, the one only you can define. This questioning may also come with a temporary sense of loneliness. At first, you might feel disconnected from old friends or your usual social circle. It's a natural part of distancing yourself from external expectations in order to find your inner truth. But don't be afraid. it's only temporary. That loneliness becomes the space where self-awareness can grow, and over time, you'll start attracting people who share your new vision, people who resonate with your evolving worldview. It's like experiencing a reset. What no longer serves you starts to fade, and in its place, a renewed energy connects you with what genuinely matters. This process of questioning isn't a crisis, it's an awakening that prepares you for something bigger, deeper, and more aligned with your purpose. And although the journey toward that discovery might seem uncertain at first, you'll come to understand that it's exactly what you needed to become the best version of yourself. Fourth sign, you feel more connected to your intuition than ever before. It's a fascinating phenomenon that arises when you're on the brink of making a major leap in your life. It's as if a new kind of inner clarity gets activated within you. Suddenly, life begins to make more sense, as if everything carries a deeper meaning, and every choice feels more natural. What once felt uncertain now becomes obvious. You're no longer lost in the chaos of your thoughts. Something within starts guiding you, showing you which direction to take. Intuition is that inner voice, that gut feeling that tells you what to do even without needing all the answers or logical explanations. It's the sense of knowing that something is aligned with your true self, even if you can't explain why. The key lies in learning to trust that inner wisdom. As you begin to do so, you'll notice that making decisions becomes easier because you're acting from a deeper place, one that's more connected to who you truly are. This awakening of intuition isn't something that happens overnight. It often starts with small signs, like a hunch that leads you to take a different path, or a wave of calm that embraces you during uncertain moments. At first, it might be hard to recognize, especially since the noise of everyday life tends to drown out that inner voice. But as you start giving it space and begin listening more closely, you'll see how it grows stronger and clearer. Intuition can show up in various forms, sometimes as a physical sensation in the body, other times as a thought that appears out of nowhere, or even as an unexplainable certainty about a person or situation. As you grow more attuned to it, you'll begin to realize that your choices are no longer purely rational. They come from a deeper knowing that's more in tune with your essence. It won't matter if you don't fully understand why something draws you in or pushes you away, because that feeling of certainty is the beginning of a powerful transformation that's about to unfold. As you continue nurturing this connection with your intuition, you'll start noticing that events which once seemed random or messy now have a pattern, as if the pieces of a puzzle are finally fitting together. Your life starts flowing more naturally, more smoothly, because you feel, in some unexplainable way, that you're in the right place, at the right time, doing exactly what you're meant to do. You no longer feel the urge to overanalyze every step, because you trust that your intuition is guiding you toward the right path. This awakening also allows you to notice things that once went unseen. You'll be able to read between the lines, sense the energy of people and situations, and grasp more deeply what's truly happening around you. Sometimes it's not about what's being said, but what's being felt. And now, you'll be much more open to those subtle vibrations. The most amazing part about this sign is that the more you trust your intuition, the more you begin to feel a deep sense of peace and security that you never knew before. Even if you don't have all the answers, even if the future is still a mystery, that strong feeling of being aligned with your purpose will be so powerful, nothing will be able to pull you off your path. Fear and doubt begin to lose their grip because your decisions no longer come from a place of fear, but from a deep understanding of yourself and the universe around you. This marks the beginning of a phase of self-discovery and empowerment. As you continue learning to listen to your intuition, you'll notice that the choices you make bring you closer to your true essence. Life starts to flow with a grace you never imagined, simply because you're now aligned with the natural rhythm of your being. Yes, you feel more drawn to the idea of personal growth. As this new chapter unfolds, you notice your mind opening wider than ever before. You're no longer content with what you once knew, nor with the version of yourself you used to accept. It feels as if a profound desire for personal expansion is rising from within. You no longer want to just exist, but to evolve, to improve, to push your limits. This inner drive for growth begins to guide your thoughts and actions. You find yourself constantly seeking new knowledge through books, courses, experiences, or even conversations with people who challenge the way you think. Knowledge, new skills, and transformative experiences draw you in like never before. It's as if you're hungry to learn more, to grow more, to become a more authentic and powerful version of yourself. This thirst for learning and self-discovery leads you to explore parts of yourself you never thought to uncover. From your hidden passions to your deepest limitations, you sense that there's no time to waste, that now is the time to embrace every opportunity to reinvent yourself. And it's not just about intellectual curiosity, it's about a longing to feel whole, to align more closely with your values and your purpose. This longing for growth also connects you to a transformative energy, a feeling that nothing is impossible if you are willing to evolve. You find yourself more open to releasing old limiting beliefs and welcoming new perspectives that move you forward. This personal development isn't just a desire, it's becoming an inner necessity, one that will reflect in every part of your life. What once seemed like a clear and defined path now feels uncertain, as though you need to discover new directions, new ways of thinking and acting. Personal growth is no longer just a choice, it's a priority. You're ready to embark on a journey that won't just change your outer world, it will reshape your inner self in ways you can't yet fully comprehend. You begin asking deeper questions. Who am I really? What is my purpose? What do I truly want to do with my life? This period of questioning is no accident. It's a clear sign that your mind is ready to expand, to break out of the comfort zone you once thought was enough. You're not just searching for answers. You're craving a transformation that elevates you to a higher level of awareness, where the ordinary begins to feel extraordinary. At the same time, you feel a pull toward healing. It's not only intellectual growth, it's also emotional and spiritual. You start confronting old wounds, limiting beliefs, and mental patterns that no longer serve you. You're ready to let them go, understanding that only by releasing the past can you make room for the new. And while this process can be challenging, it becomes one of the most exciting parts of your journey toward a more authentic self. Your life starts to revolve more around what truly matters. Growth, connection, authenticity. These begin to outweigh the small concerns and superficial distractions that once consumed your attention. You are now ready to move beyond the daily routine, to make meaningful changes that align with your deepest desires. You may start surrounding yourself with people who also feel this urge to grow and transform. People who challenge you to be better, think differently, and explore new ideas and perspectives. You're no longer seeking external validation or clinging to outdated beliefs. You're seeking a more meaningful and authentic life, a life that reflects the truest version of who you are. Sign number 6. You're feeling an intense desire to break free from toxic relationships and situations that no longer resonate with you. At this stage of your life, you're beginning to notice how certain people and circumstances that once felt like home now seem completely out of place. The things you used to tolerate, the behaviors you once excused, and the environments you once accepted as normal now feel heavy, draining, or simply disconnected from who you are becoming. You're not just outgrowing these dynamics, you're evolving past them. What once felt familiar and even comforting no longer aligns with your evolving values, your deeper sense of purpose, or your inner peace. You're undergoing a profound transformation, and that process is making it impossible to ignore the weight of what's been holding you back. It's like waking up from a long sleep and realizing that some of the people and patterns you kept close were never really helping you thrive. They were just keeping you in place. And now, something has shifted inside of you. There's a clarity emerging, a powerful awareness that you no longer want to remain stuck in connections that drain your energy or keep you in a state of emotional turbulence. It doesn't matter how long you've known someone, how much effort you've invested, or how familiar the situation feels. If it doesn't support your growth, it's time to let it go. You no longer fear the uncertainty that comes with change, because the discomfort of staying in a place that no longer feels right has become greater than the fear of the unknown. This urge to distance yourself from toxic energy isn't about rejecting others with resentment. It's about honoring yourself with love. It's not selfish to choose peace, to seek clarity, to protect your energy. It's self-respect. You're beginning to understand that in order to become the best version of yourself, you must first be willing to step away from what dims your light. You can't build a future that feels true to you if you're still anchored to the past through relationships that no longer reflect who you are. What's unfolding within you is a sacred act of self-liberation. It's the understanding that you deserve to be surrounded by people who uplift you, who challenge you in ways that promote your growth, who see you clearly and love you for who you truly are. You're not looking for perfection. You're looking for authenticity, for realness, for mutual respect and emotional safety. And while the process of letting go can be painful because endings are never easy, it's also one of the most empowering things you can do for yourself. It's a declaration that your well-being matters, that your peace matters, that your time, your heart, your energy, they all matter. You no longer want to sacrifice those things for the sake of comfort or fear. You've realized that clinging to what's familiar isn't worth the cost of your personal evolution. As you release what no longer serves you, something beautiful begins to happen. You start attracting people and experiences that are in true alignment with your soul. New connections begin to blossom, ones that feel light, expansive, inspiring. You find yourself in the company of those who get you, who support your path, who encourage your dreams rather than belittle them. These are the relationships that add value to your life. They don't drain you, they fuel you. And slowly, you begin to rebuild. A new chapter begins, one filled with genuine bonds that replace the superficial ones. The kind of connections that don't just fill the space, but nurture your spirit. You stop settling for half-hearted relationships and begin welcoming the kind of love, whether in friendship, family, or romance, that sees you, hears you, and respects you. This is the sign that you're preparing for a new and extraordinary stage in your life, one where you are more in tune with who you truly are, one where peace is prioritized, where your heart is safe, and where your soul is finally free to grow, to love, and to live without restraint. This is more than just a shift. It's your rebirth. Sign number 7. You begin to feel a powerful disconnection from everything that no longer serves you. As you step into this new phase of your life, you start to notice that what once felt essential, meaningful, or even irreplaceable now carries far less weight. It's as if something deep within you has shifted. Your perspective is changing. Your energy is transforming. And what once seemed to define your world now begins to fade into the background. Relationships that used to feel vital may now feel strained or disconnected. Activities that once filled you with joy might now seem hollow or repetitive. Even familiar places, spots that once gave you comfort, might suddenly feel distant or unfamiliar. And no, this doesn't mean that your past was a mistake or that your choices were wrong. It simply means you're evolving. You're shedding layers of an identity that no longer fits. You're stepping into a more aligned version of yourself, and in doing so, certain pieces of your old life naturally begin to fall away. This disconnection might feel uncomfortable at first. There can be moments of confusion, sadness, or nostalgia. You might question yourself, why don't I enjoy this anymore? Or why do I feel so distant from people I used to love? And yet, amidst that discomfort, there's a subtle but undeniable feeling of freedom. It's like breathing fresh air after being in a closed room for too long. You may not understand everything that's happening, but something inside you knows it's time to let go. You begin to notice that certain habits, routines, or even thought patterns no longer resonate with your current state of being. What once consumed your attention now barely moves you. Old fears lose their grip. Constant worries seem less urgent. And while this can bring a sense of loss, it also carries with it a profound sense of peace. There's a sacred silence that follows the letting go, an inner calm that wasn't there before. You're not just releasing the old, you're making room for the new. And this new is not just something external. It's a deeper alignment with who you truly are becoming. This isn't a sudden transformation. It unfolds slowly, almost quietly. Day by day, the shift deepens. You might wake up one morning and realize you no longer feel passionate about something that once defined your identity. Or you might find that conversations with certain people leave you drained rather than inspired. This isn't about betrayal. It's not about abandoning your past or rejecting the people in it. It's about honoring your evolution, recognizing that growth often means outgrowing. You're cultivating a more refined awareness of what truly matters. Your inner compass is recalibrating. You understand that in order to move forward, you must release what no longer nourishes your soul. It could be a job, a friendship, a belief system, or simply a version of yourself that no longer feels true. This process is sacred. It's part of your becoming. And while it may not always be easy, it is necessary. Remember, the universe has a unique way of guiding us, sometimes gently, sometimes abruptly, but always purposefully. If you're hearing these words right now, if they resonate even a little, trust that it's not by accident. You were meant to receive this message. Something within you is awakening. A deeper wisdom is rising to the surface. And if you follow it, if you trust this inner knowing, you are about to enter a chapter of your life where everything starts to make sense. What happens when you finally take control of your life with full awareness of these signs? What shifts when you stop clinging to what was and start welcoming what's meant to be? A powerful awakening awaits, one that has the potential to reshape everything you thought you knew. You're not just changing your circumstances, you're expanding your consciousness. You're aligning with a version of reality where peace, clarity, and authenticity are your new foundation. This is the beginning of something extraordinary. Stay curious, stay open. The journey ahead is not just about growth, it's about transformation. You're not alone on this path, and if you feel called to keep exploring your personal evolution, continue walking with us. There's so much more to uncover. We'll meet again soon, and together we'll keep growing, expanding, and stepping into the truth of who we really are. There are people in this world who don't need to speak in order to leave a deep impression. They don't try to stand out. They don't seek the spotlight. And yet somehow they reveal truths that others weren't ready to see. Without trying to provoke change, they silently trigger profound transformations in the hearts and minds of those who come close. It's not something they do consciously. It's just something they are. These individuals become mirrors, not in the superficial sense of merely reflecting appearances, but in a much deeper, more soul-stirring way. They confront others with the parts of themselves that they either don't want to see or have buried so deeply they can no longer reach them. Carl Jung once said that everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves, and some souls, by simply being, ignite that inner process in those around them. They are not teachers in the traditional sense. They don't teach through words or lectures. They teach through vibration, through presence. Their energy speaks louder than any sermon. They are energetic mirrors. Perhaps no one has ever told you this before. Maybe you haven't even fully realized it yourself. But if you've noticed lately that your mere presence seems to shift conversations, provoke honesty, or make people act differently without you doing anything at all, then it's very possible you are one of those mirrors. And it's not an easy role, because being a mirror doesn't only mean reflecting light. It also means reflecting shadow. And not everyone is ready to face their shadow. Some resist it. Some push it away. One of the first signs that you are this type of mirror is that people change when they're near you, and you can't quite explain why. It's not about what you say or do. It's something more subtle, more profound. You may have noticed that some people feel incredibly calm and at peace in your presence, while others become restless, nervous, even agitated, without any apparent reason. You remain silent, watching this shift, quietly wondering what it means. Over time, you start to see a pattern. It doesn't matter how neutral you try to be. Your presence alone amplifies whatever others carry within them. If someone is holding on to anxiety, it heightens near you. If someone is carrying unexpressed sadness, it begins to surface just by being in your proximity. And if someone has disconnected so much from themselves that they no longer feel at all, your energy, without any conscious effort, confronts them with that numbness. This can be deeply uncomfortable, because even though you say nothing, something in you causes people to either lower their defenses or raise them sky high. Not because you seek confrontation, but because your energy is like a clean mirror, unfiltered, unadorned. And for those who live behind masks or illusions, such clarity can feel like too much to bear. Jung also said that we meet ourselves in the other, and you, perhaps unknowingly, are that other for many people. Without intending to, Without seeking attention, you become the reflection point, where hidden truths begin to surface. Not because you point them out with your words, but because your being holds space for what is real. Your presence is so in tune with truth that it leaves little room for self-deception. You might have wondered why people confide in you out of nowhere, why they tell you things they've never told anyone, or why they start crying in your presence without even knowing why. That's not a coincidence. It's resonance. Your energy field opens emotional doors that others couldn't open on their own. And in those moments, truth peeks out. Not because you demand it, but because your vibration makes it feel safe enough to emerge. And even though this has left you feeling emotionally drained at times, you're beginning to understand something vital. It's not that you absorb others' emotions, it's that you awaken them. Your frequency no longer tolerates falsehoods, superficial relationships, or connections that deny what is essential. You have become a catalyst, a mirror that simply by being reflects whatever needs to be seen. Yes, this path has come with its own costs. Misunderstandings, rejections, unexplained distances from people who once felt close. But you're no longer punishing yourself for that. You're beginning to accept that not everyone is ready to see themselves clearly. And you weren't born to soften that reflection, just to make others feel more comfortable. You were born to hold that mirror with love, even when others aren't ready to recognize what they see. And maybe, just maybe, that's your silent gift to the world. There is a second, deeper sign that often goes unnoticed, but reveals something profound about your energy and your purpose in this world. People project emotions onto you that don't belong to you. Have you ever found yourself unexpectedly caught in the emotional storms of others? Without doing anything in particular, you suddenly become the target of someone's misplaced anger, the unwilling confidant of secrets you never asked to hear, or the silent container of someone else's frustration, pain, or confusion. It's as if something within you, something unspoken, makes others feel they can unload their emotional weight in your presence. Carl Jung once taught that what we deny within ourselves, we unconsciously project onto the outside world. And you, often without realizing it, have become that outside world for many people. You're the screen onto which they cast the parts of themselves they're unable or unwilling to face. But it's not just close friends or family members who project onto you. Sometimes it's strangers, people who've barely exchanged a word with you, co-workers who don't really know you, or casual acquaintances who for some reason feel an intense reaction to your presence. You've started to realize that there's something in your energetic field, something subtle yet powerful, that awakens dormant emotions in others, emotions that have long been buried, denied, or hidden away. You've probably asked yourself more than once, am I doing something wrong? Is it the way I speak, the way I walk into a room? Is there something about my presence that provokes these responses? But over time, you've come to a powerful realization. It's not about what you do, it's about who you are. It's the vibration you carry. You've come to understand that your very presence becomes a kind of energetic mirror, a channel for emotional release in those who have no idea how to deal with their own inner chaos. And yes, it often feels unfair. You're not responsible for the emotional baggage of others, and yet you seem to attract it, carry it, absorb it, until now. Because now, with deeper awareness, you see that it isn't personal. It's energetic. Jung described projection as a psychological defense mechanism, something people do unconsciously to avoid facing uncomfortable truths about themselves. And without intending to, You become that mirror, reflecting not only their wounds, but also the untapped potential they're not ready to claim. This is why people sometimes put you on a pedestal, seeing in you an idealized version of themselves, one they admire, perhaps even envy. But that same dynamic can flip in an instant. They may later resent you, criticize you harshly, or accuse you of things you know are not true. Because in truth, their reaction is never really about you. It's about the parts of themselves they've yet to accept. What's remarkable is that you've started to recognize this pattern. And even though it can be emotionally exhausting, you also sense that there's an opportunity hidden within it. Each projection, each emotional outburst directed at you, is also an invitation for the other person to wake up, to look within, to recognize their own story in the reflection you provide. And you, by remaining grounded in your own center, by not absorbing their chaos or reacting from your own wounds, become a stabilizing force. You become a vessel of transformation. This is not easy. You've cried tears that were not yours. You've carried the heaviness of feelings that didn't originate in your own heart. But you're beginning to realize something profound. You can reflect without absorbing. You can hold space without carrying the weight. You can remain present without losing yourself in someone else's emotional narrative. And with this newfound understanding, you are becoming free. Because the more clearly you see that what others see in you is often a projection of themselves, the more lightly you can move through the world. You don't have to internalize their emotions anymore. You don't have to take responsibility for their unresolved wounds. You're still the mirror, yes. But now, you're a mirror that no longer forgets its own reflection. Even more, you've come to understand that these projections, however intense or draining, carry encoded messages. Every time someone directs disproportionate anger toward you, or showers you with unwarranted praise, or resists your presence, or rejects you without cause, you know with clarity, this is not about me. It's about something in them that they haven't yet faced. It's about something they've pushed into the shadows of their psyche, something they don't yet know how to process. And instead of reacting, defending yourself, explaining, or trying to be understood, you've learned to hold space with calmness and neutrality. You no longer feel the need to prove yourself or to be validated. You've come to understand that your role as an energetic mirror is not to argue or convince anyone. It is simply to reflect. And sometimes, reflection provokes discomfort. It stirs resistance. It brings up fear, grief, shame, anger. Not because you've done something wrong, but because your vibration exposes what others are not ready to see. As Jung wisely said, what we do not bring into consciousness appears in our lives as fate, as enemies, obstacles, conflicts, and often, without even realizing it, you've become the face of that fate for others, the person onto whom they cast their disowned parts. You've been the screen on which others project their fears, their unmet needs, their unfulfilled dreams. And yes, it has drained you at times. It has made you question your path, your relationships, your very identity. But now you know. You can reflect without becoming confused. You can see the storm around you without becoming the storm itself. You are learning to stay rooted in your own truth, even when others try to hand you their emotional chaos. You are learning to be the clear space where truth can arise, where others might for a moment catch a glimpse of who they really are, even if they deny it, even if they blame you for the discomfort they feel in your presence. And through this silent holding, through this quiet strength, you are growing stronger. You no longer fragment yourself in an attempt to be liked. You no longer dilute your essence just to be more acceptable. You understand now that those who are ready to truly see themselves will find a sacred opportunity in your presence, and those who aren't will see you as a threat, a trigger, an uncomfortable mirror. And both are okay, because your role is not to be comfortable for others. Your role is to be true to the frequency you've come here to embody. You are not here to soften your light so others can stay in the dark. You are here to shine it fully, to reflect without fear, to embody your energy unapologetically. In doing so, you give others a choice, not to follow you, not to admire you, not to agree with you, but to turn inward and meet themselves. And that, more than anything, is what makes you powerful. Third sign, people feel emotionally exposed around you, even when you haven't said a single word. You've probably noticed how, in your presence, conversations naturally take a deeper turn. Defenses come down, silences become meaningful, and somehow your energy alone seems to invite others to shed the superficial and step into emotional territory they may have avoided for years. Carl Jung taught that the soul recognizes where it can be seen without judgment, and unknowingly, you've become that safe space where authenticity is allowed to surface. You've realized you don't have to force conversations or lead people into depth. Just the way you exist, the way you look at others, your quiet presence, it's enough to invite masks to fall away. Even people who usually protect themselves behind stories and facades end up opening up to you, as if their soul had long been waiting for such a space. And it's not because you're doing anything special. It's because you resonate at a frequency where only the real things survive. You've stopped engaging in empty conversations, stopped playing along with shallow dynamics, and quit validating what doesn't feel true to you. That energetic coherence is felt, even if it's not consciously understood. It's sensed, even if it can't be explained. Jung also said that the collective unconscious recognizes the places where it can emerge without danger. And you are one of those places now, because your energy no longer tries to manipulate, correct, or please. It simply holds. You hold the silence. You hold the pain. You hold the vulnerability of others without trying to cover it up, fix it, or fill it with unnecessary advice. And in that clear, non-intrusive presence, others feel the permission to be just as they are. Permission they may have never received before. Permission that maybe you were once denied too. And that's exactly why you can now offer it freely, without conditions. That ability to create openness without any conscious effort is one of the clearest signs that you're an energetic mirror. People, without even knowing why, feel they can release with you. They can cry without fear. They can finally speak what they've never dared to say. And you, without invading, without judging, without taking on their burdens, hold space like an invisible altar where each person meets their true self. And even though it's sometimes exhausting to be that point of emotional opening for others, you now understand. It's not your role to intervene in everything that comes up. Your job is simply to allow it to emerge. You're learning not to absorb other people's emotions, not to feel responsible for what they discover in themselves through you. Your task isn't to carry their processes, it's to sustain your own presence. And that, though quiet, is deeply transformative. You've also come to understand that the openness you generate isn't always welcomed with gratitude. There are people who, after being vulnerable with you, feel fear, shame, or even anger because in opening up, they touch parts of themselves that have been buried for a long time. And although you never try to expose them, just your presence reveals what they've tried to keep hidden. Jung said the soul doesn't always thank the mirror right away. Often, it needs time to process what it saw, and you've learned to honor that time. You no longer expect to be understood, appreciated, or acknowledged for what your presence awakens in others. You know it's not about you. It's just a natural process. When people see themselves clearly, they often need to pull back to integrate what they've seen. And you understand now that this retreat isn't a rejection of you. It's a confrontation with themselves. You've learned not to take it as something to fix or as a blow to your self-worth. You understand that when you activate that energetic mirror, some people will stay, others will walk away, and some will deny what they saw entirely. And all of those responses are valid. Your job isn't to retain, to convince, or to push. It's to remain grounded in your own energetic truth, even if that means standing alone in certain spaces, even if it means letting go of relationships that can't meet you in that depth. And though it may hurt, you recognize it's the price of living from what's real, because you can't go back, not to places where masks are the norm, where evasion is the language, where disconnection is the way of life. You've chosen, through every conscious act, through every silent letting go, to be that space where the soul feels safe enough to show itself, even if it separates you from those who aren't ready to do the same. And that choice has made you strong. It has made you clear. It has made you a mirror and a channel for something greater than yourself. Fourth sign. People come to you when they need clarity, but often drift away when they're not ready to hold that clarity. You've noticed that during moments of crisis, confusion, or inner chaos, they turn to you. They confide in you. They unload their inner world. But when the reflection you offer shows them truths they're not yet prepared to face, many walk away without saying a word. Carl Jung once said that the unconscious desperately seeks mirrors, but also flees from them when they reveal what the mind is unable to process. You are that mirror, and you've felt this again and again. You've also come to recognize that this dynamic repeats itself with different faces, at different times, and in various contexts. People who once seemed comfortable with your presence suddenly feel uneasy, create distance, vanish without a clear reason. Not because you've changed, but because the reflection you offer has become too honest, too raw, too confronting for those not yet ready to see themselves at that depth. And although it used to hurt you at first, although you questioned whether you were doing something wrong, now you understand it's not personal. It's simply the soul's natural reaction when it stands before its bare truth. You've learned to release those disconnections without clinging to unnecessary pain, without staying trapped in explanations that only drain your energy, because you now understand the mirror isn't responsible for what others see. It's only the reflection. Carl Jung said that what we deny in ourselves ends up destroying us from within, but when we dare to recognize it in another, we open a door to integration. And you are that door for many, not because you intend to be, but because you can no longer resonate with superficiality. Your energetic field has become so finely tuned that it no longer holds space for what's false, manipulated, or distorted. And in that clarity, those who seek you during times of confusion often end up running away when what they see in you is a reflection of their own misalignment. You've come to understand that not everyone wants clarity. Some only want validation, temporary companionship, emotional distraction, and you can no longer offer that because your presence, without even trying, demands authenticity. It calls the other person to look themselves in the eye, and not everyone is willing to stand in that reflection. But you've chosen not to dim your clarity to make others comfortable, not to lower your frequency to become more palatable, because you know that those who are ready to stand in your reflection will find a sacred space within you, and those who aren't are also entitled to their own process, their own timing, their own distance. You, in silence, without expectations, without the need to hold anyone back, allow everything to flow as it must, because you've learned that being a mirror means letting others see themselves when they're ready, not before, not through pressure, not from lack. You've also come to understand that your role as a mirror is not measured by how long others stay in your life, but by the transformation you activate in them, even from afar. Have you noticed how, after those intense encounters, those seemingly brief connections, many people return sometime later with a different look in their eyes, a different way of speaking, a new openness? They don't always say it. They don't always thank you, but you feel it. Something shifted within them, and that's part of your silent mission. Not to be a guide, not to be a teacher, not to be a lighthouse, but to be a mirror, a clear, coherent, available mirror, with no need for the other to understand the reflection at the exact moment they receive it. You've learned to honor others' processes, even when they walk away from you, misinterpret you, or project their unresolved wounds onto you. Carl Jung said that the soul reflects itself in another, not when it wants to, but when it is ready. And by standing firmly in your truth, without demands, without expectations, without chasing instant results, you allow that alchemy to unfold at the perfect time for each person. You've let go of the need to be chosen. You've released the burden of maintaining connections that only survive when you dim your light, when you minimize your clarity, when you agree to be what you are not. And now you understand that being a mirror also means holding the emptiness when it's needed. It means respecting the distance. It means knowing that rejection is not rejection of you, but rejection of the reflection they're not yet ready to inhabit. And that has freed you, because you no longer need everyone to stay. You only need to remain true to your essence, knowing that those who are ready will come closer, and those who aren't will continue on their path until life shows them other mirrors, other truths, other opportunities. You're beginning to understand that being an energetic mirror is not a comfortable task, but it is a deeply transformative one. For them, for you, and for a world that needs more people willing to reflect without disguise. The fifth sign, your mere presence, has the power to harmonize or disrupt the energy of a space, without any conscious effort on your part. Have you noticed how, simply by walking into a room, something shifts? The atmosphere changes, tensions are stirred or released, and what was being held in silence suddenly finds expression. It's not that you're doing anything deliberately, it's simply that your energy field speaks louder than words ever could. It's as if your presence acts like an invisible tuning fork, silently recalibrating the energies of the space you enter. Without intending to, you restore what was misaligned and bring to light what others were subconsciously ignoring. Carl Jung spoke of the collective unconscious as a vast interconnected network, where even unspoken realities ripple through unseen threads. You, whether you're aware of it or not, have become a kind of energetic node, a catalyst for transformation, awakening what needs to move. You've probably started to notice it more clearly now. You no longer need to speak or take action for the environment around you to shift. Just by entering, frequencies start to change. You've walked into rooms so thick with unspoken tension that the air felt heavy, only to see that tension either erupt or dissolve moments after your arrival, without saying a single word. It's as though your energy carries with it a vibration that disrupts what's stagnant, accelerates what has been suppressed, and illuminates what others were trying to hide. Even when you don't understand why this happens, you've begun to recognize it as a part of your energetic nature. You are like a subtle activator, an unconscious trigger of movement in spaces that have long remained dormant. Not because you intend to be, but because you operate from a frequency that refuses to let anything misaligned remain in shadow for too long. Jung often taught that what remains hidden in the unconscious will eventually manifest in the external world until someone has the courage to name it, to acknowledge it, and bring it into consciousness. And more often than not, you are that someone. Not by pointing fingers or making declarations, but simply by being. Your presence alone nudges what is unbalanced toward a new alignment. It's a quiet but profound power, one that has likely made you feel out of place in more than a few situations. Some people may see you as a threat, not because of anything you've done, but because of the emotional or energetic reactions you unintentionally provoke. Your energy doesn't support illusions anymore. It no longer allows denial to be used as a hiding place. You are no longer the person who dims their light to make others feel more comfortable. You've tried that before, softening your presence, shrinking your vibration, hoping not to disturb. But now you understand that to do so is to betray yourself. You've come to see that remaining true to your own center, anchored in stillness, is not only your right, it's your calling. And now, you let people respond as they will. Those who are ready will find resonance and healing in your frequency. Those who aren't will feel shaken, even destabilized, and you've learned to let them go without bitterness. You did not come here to control the outcome, or to mold yourself into a version that makes everyone else feel comfortable. You came to remember, and to help others remember, by embodying the truth that sometimes disorder is a sacred part of a greater order. Chaos, when held with awareness, becomes alchemy. That is how you walk now. Not as someone who seeks to fix or to please, but as someone who carries the medicine of presence. Your vibration is a remedy for some, and an uncomfortable mirror for others, but always an authentic reflection of the frequency your soul has chosen to maintain. You've also come to understand that this ability to harmonize or disrupt doesn't stem from your mood or intentions. It's not something you choose to activate. It just happens, because your energetic field has reached a level of inner coherence that can't tolerate inconsistency around it without causing motion. You've reached a vibration so aligned with truth that anything untrue begins to unravel in your presence. It's as if your very being carries forgotten codes, silent reminders that awaken others from their slumber. You've entered places that felt stuck in hollow routines, where conversation was shallow, gestures were automatic, and energy was stale. And yet, the moment you stepped in, everything began to shift. Not because you said anything provocative, but because you arrived carrying the subtle but powerful vibration of truth, the energy of the unspoken question, the presence that cannot pretend. And even if it's not always understood, it is always felt. Jung reminded us that everything unconscious seeks the light, and often you are the vessel through which that light begins to filter, uninvited, unannounced. As it flows through, what was buried surfaces, what was frozen begins to thaw, and what was held together by habit collapses, making way for something more real. But you're no longer afraid of this role. In the past, perhaps you tried to blend in, to minimize your impact, to avoid disturbing the surface. But now you know that your vibration is not here to accommodate. It's here to awaken. And awakening, by its nature, is rarely comfortable, but it is always necessary, because those who choose to stay after the initial disruption, the ones who remain even after the old walls start to crack, are the ones who are truly ready, ready to build something honest, ready to step into alignment. And those who leave will do so on their own time, with their own lessons. You no longer chase after them. You no longer cling. Because now you know, your presence was never meant to hold anyone back. It was meant to activate what was dormant, to unlock inner doors that only open when someone dares to reflect what others refuse to see. And in being that mirror, you continue to see more of yourself, to remember who you are, to refine your own path. Because even the clearest mirror must remain true to its own reflection. Even those who reflect must still learn how to see. Being an energetic mirror is not a role you consciously chose. It is a silent calling from your soul, a sacred responsibility that has made you a catalyst, an activator, a living space of transformation where the unseen becomes seen. And though that path is not easy, you've chosen to walk it with integrity. You refuse to betray yourself. You no longer force yourself to fit into places that no longer match your frequency. Jung once reminded us that when an individual becomes a mirror, they must also learn to hold themselves with love, with boundaries, with deep awareness. Because the mirror does not absorb, it reflects. It does not drag, it reveals. It does not carry, it holds space, firmly rooted in its own center. And that's what you're learning to do now, to inhabit your center with a quiet kind of dignity, one that doesn't need to shout to be heard, one that transforms by simply being. If these words resonated with something deep inside you, if you felt as though each sentence named something you could never quite explain, it's because you've already become aware of the frequency you carry. And if you wish to continue walking in your truth, embracing that silent power within you, then keep listening. Here, the soul doesn't just speak, it reflects. Here, those who are ready find the mirror their spirit has been longing to see.